All right, happy to have on Tom Dienhart's been covering the Big Ten for a long time here, but this is probably one of the tougher seasons he's had to cover for a team that he's covered because he's covering Purdue for goldenblack.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Dienhart1. Tom, woof, rough start. I've covered seasons like this at Illinois, but Purdue 1-4 has lost its 4 games against FBS opponents by a combined 140 points. How would you just describe the mood and the scene in West Lafayette right now?
Yeah, first, Jeremy, thank you very much for having me. I've known you for a long time now. I remember when you had the radio show with Lon, and it seems like 100 years ago, but you do a great job over there. How would I describe the scene in West Lafayette? Depressing. I mean, there's no way you can sugarcoat what's going on here, Jeremy. It's unfortunate. It's an abomination. I know that's a strong word, but it's, nobody expected miracles this year from Purdue, right? We all knew what the schedule was like. This was only the second year for Walters. 5-7, maybe 6-6. Hey, that'd be great, right? But one thing I think fans did expect was a team that was at least competitive and a team that looked like it knew what it was doing, that it was prepared, that its staff could make adjustments. And Jeremy, we've seen none of that. And it began with that 66-7 just pummeling by Notre Dame. And the loss to State was disheartening because that was what was Purdue's response going to be from Notre Dame. And there was no response. Nebraska, same deal. Last week, Jeremy, last week may have been the nadir up in Madison against a Midland, Wisconsin team. 52-6. So on and on it goes, my friend. I'm not sure where this is going to end, and I have no idea. Saturday, man, Bielema versus Walters in Memorial Stadium. That's going to be very interesting, buddy.
Yeah, well, Ryan Walters, I thought the world of as a coordinator here. I can see why he went into an interview and really impressed the Purdue brass there. But he is a first-time head coach in what historically, despite what Jeff Brom did, has been a tough job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, between Joe Tiller and Jeff Brom, that was a tough job, and the schedule has been very difficult. But what have been kind of the missteps along the way, or what's behind the struggles under his leadership, particularly this season?
I think there's, as with anything, Jeremy, there's always plenty of blame to go around. I don't think they've done very well in the portal. We were told otherwise. These guys this year were really going to make an impact. And one of the few guys that has, Jeremy, is Reggie Love, the old Illini running back. The punter's been good. The long snapper's been good. And they've had a D-back in Colorado. Other than that, they haven't got much out of these portal guys for the money they've spent. I wonder how that's affected the locker room. I have to believe there's some disconnect between the locker room and the staff here. Obviously, I'm not on the inside that deep, but it just seems like there's no connection there. There's no trust on maybe what's being coached. There seems to be something that's very deep-rooted. Something that's not going to be fixed between Saturdays, schematically especially. And speaking of that, Jeremy, Purdue made that radical change after the Nebraska game where they fired Graham Harrell. And they appointed an analyst, real good guy, a longtime Indiana high school football coach, Jason Simmons, put him in this untenable situation. Here you go. Here's the headset. You figure it out. And he's trying the best he can. There were some new wrinkles last week, but just 2 field goals, 216 yards of offense. So, again, Jim, I wish I could give you a real thorough diagnosis of what all ails Purdue, really what's going on behind the scenes. Those are some guesses, and like I said, I'm not sure what's going on can really be fixed, like I said, during the season.
You brought up the transfer portal. I wanted to bring that up too, because obviously losing Nick Skirton, potential first-round pick, Deion Burks doing really well at Oklahoma, is really tough. And that's part of the world of NIL and haves and have-nots here. But they made some splashes. Like on paper, these off seasons have looked pretty good for them, but it hasn't translated. So what do you kind of make of both the comings and goings with the portal and kind of talent here?
Yeah, been a lot of in, a lot of out here since Walters took over last 18 months or so, almost 2 years now. Most of the guys who left, I don't think there were a lot of tears shed. Jeff Brom, I don't think did a great job recruiting his last year or two. In came about 24 guys this last year. And like I said earlier, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of hope, a lot of optimism. around some of these guys who I know they spent some decent money on. I know Ryan did a good job bolstering the NIL war chest, pressing the flesh, raising money, being a fundraiser. So he had more money to spend. He said that these were guys that last year they couldn't even have gotten in on. But they got in on them this year, and they signed a lot of them. A lot of them, like I said, a lot of them just have not panned out. The two areas that they probably spent the most in were the offensive line and the wide receiving core. The offensive line's been a mixed bag, Jeremy, and the receiving core has been an utter disappointment. Injuries have been a part of that, but you look at the Purdue offense, which I thought was going to be the strength of the team back in July and August, and it's been, again, a catastrophe. Couple quick things really that plague them offensively. They just can't stay on the field. They cannot convert third downs. They're abysmal. They were 1 of 11 last week, so they're always 3 and out. Throw the defense back on the field, and it's a defense that's solid, Jeremy. But again, it has its issues too. But that has not helped the defense. So they can't convert third downs. There's absolutely no explosive plays, no big plays. And number 3 is the passing game. Jeremy, this is the cradle of quarterbacks. And the passing game is among the worst in the Big Ten in the nation. They struggle to pass protect, and like I mentioned, getting back to receivers. There are real no playmakers on the edge for this offense.
All right, so Graham Harrell, somebody's going to pay the price, right? And Graham Harrell pays the price. But why has this offense taken a step back in year 2? And man, Jason Simmons, as you said, I don't envy him taking this over. How's he trying to find a spark for Hudson Card, who's not having a great year, but doesn't seem to have much around?
You're right. You kind of feel bad for Hudson Card. I don't think this rests on Hudson Card's shoulders. I'm sure he has some culpability in these struggles, but he's often on the run and running for his life. Doesn't have a lot of time to throw. I think Jason's trying to come up with some quicker reads, getting the ball out of his hands quicker, and putting him on rolling him out the moving pocket to help buy him some time. And they've tried to have a little bit of option football last week. They've gone with some jumbo packages where they'll put a 6th offensive lineman out on the field. They're playing a few other guys that hadn't been playing much recently to try to mix up the personnel. So they're trying. It's kind of like, Jeremy, that old phrase, moving the vegetables around the plate, if you will. Nothing's really changed, but you're trying different things. But again, you have to try something, right? And so here we are, like I said, and as you know, as a longtime football guy, the sport's won up front on both sides of the ball. And I mentioned the offensive line has really been, I don't think, as good as we thought it was going to be. A couple portal guys have arrived and haven't been as good as we thought. And that's been a disappointment. So the offensive line, I think, is a big reason for the struggles. And the defensive line, too. I think 3 or 4 of these teams have ran for over 300 yards on Purdue. They just really struggled, Jeremy, gave up big plays. It's incredible. The green grass that's available to these other teams, and they've tried to mix in some zone. As you know, this is a defense that likes to play a lot of press man, but they've been trying to play some zone to mix things up too. But we saw the last 2 weeks, Nebraska and Wisconsin just eviscerate this zone defense. So they're trying to figure out over there, not too far from where I'm at right now.
They do have, if you're looking for one positive, and one concern for Illinois has been stopping the run. Devin Mockabee, I know most of his production came against 2 teams, but he's a good back, and he hurt Illinois last year. Reggie Love's been really solid, as you said, for them. So I would imagine they try to shorten this game, right, and try to establish the run. Is there any sign of progress from that rushing attack?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And that has been, maybe, if you really had to, if you squint your eyes close and can find one area to maybe hang your hat on for this offense, it has been, at times, the ability to run the football. And you mentioned Devin Mockabee, very solid back. Reggie Love, they've been a nice combination, nice 1-2 punch. We saw a little bit more of Devin Mockabee last week. Devin and Reggie had kind of almost been splitting the reps. Devin maybe 60-40, 55-45. But we saw a little bit more Mockabee last week. We'll see if that continues on Saturday. Although you think they like to get Reggie involved, maybe he's got a little extra juice. We talked to him yesterday after practice. Of course, he was going to take any of the bait. We tried, Jeremy. We tried to give some bulletin board material. Yeah. He's well schooled. But yeah, I think you're right. God bless Purdue if they can shorten the game. Like I said, they can't convert third downs. They can run the ball, but you're going to have to pass at some point. And Illinois knows that. They're going to have that extra guy in the box and dare Purdue to throw it. So it'll be an interesting chess match. And like I said, I know Illinois was off this week, a couple of weeks to prep. And it's funny, Jeremy, this is the fifth opponent in a row Purdue will have faced coming off a loss. How about that for a little fast fact for you?
Mm-hmm. I know you guys have heard me talk about HomeField Apparel a lot, but there's a reason. I have some of these shirts from HomeField Apparel, and they are a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. And what I love about them is they're focused on creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. So go to homefieldapparel.com and check out their Illini gear. The Flying Illini t-shirt I love. If they have any bomber jackets, go check those out. But you see all of these vintage designs that are great. They kind of stand out in a crowd, but also these are comfortable, well-fitting. They're not the boxy kind of ones you get at the random department store. No, these are well-fitted, comfortable t-shirts and apparel. So go check it out at homefieldapparel.com. Go to the drag down menu, click on Illini, and you'll see all of these great shirts, including Orange Crush, old school Fighting Illini basketball shirts, the Flying Illini t-shirt with the great winged logo, Script Illini gear, including t-shirts, hoodies, an orange ringer tee, the 2004-05 Illinois basketball shirts so you can relive those glory days, but also they have great hoodies, great crew necks, great Illini football gear, including the 80s Illini helmet on there. If you're an old school sweatshirt guy, they got those. If you're a quarter zip guy, they got those. If you want a women's tank there with the Script Illini, they got that. So go to homefieldapparel.com to check out all the great gear they have there. If you're not an Illini fan, they have more than 180 plus growing list of schools. So you can check out all the gear from all over the country. And right now, use code Illini24 for 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. That's Illini24 for 15% off all the gear at homefieldapparel.com. Well, for all the focus on the offense, and understandably so, I mean, Purdue's defense is allowing 46 points per game to FBS opponents here.
That's all?
Yeah, and I mean, Ryan knows how to call defenses from his time at Illinois. Kevin Kane has had some success. What's gone so wrong on that side of the ball, Tom?
Yeah, Kevin Kane's a great guy. Most, as you know most of these guys, Jeremy, Joe Deneen and Grant O'Brien, just good guys. Ryan's a good guy. A lot of things. I think I mentioned up front the D line. The nose tackles have been solid. The guys who flank him have been spotty, and the rush ends. You mentioned Nick Scorton being gone. They missed Nick Scorton off the edge. And his sidekick last year, Cadron Jenkins, is still here. He began the year as an inside linebacker. They moved him. The thought was that, man, if he's going to play in the NFL, he's going to have to play standing up at linebacker. He's 6'1", 260 pounds. He's not going to be a D lineman in the NFL. He's been solid there, Jeremy, but as the wheels have come off this season, he's been almost shifted full-time back to rushing. So the hope is that he helps accentuate the pass rush here. Their presumed star sophomore rushing, Will Held has not developed like we thought. A couple portal guys have been bust so far too. So that's hurt the secondary obviously as well. And I'll be honest with you too, Jeremy. One of the most ballyhooed portal guys they got was this kid from Georgia, a cornerback named Nyland Green, who finally got on the field a couple weeks ago. He's been a total bust. I mean, about 6 pass interference penalties, I think, the last two games, blown coverages, just a real disappointment. So the secondary has been culpable too. As you would suspect, when you're getting up 45 points a game versus FBS goals, everybody's got some blame in this thing too. So it's just a very tough time here in West Lafayette. And I grew up here, Jeremy. Went to high school about 10 feet from the Ross-Lade Stadium, West Lafayette High School. Went to school at Purdue. I haven't seen things this bad in a long time. And as you can imagine, the fan base goes through these different stages of grief. You're angry at first. You're disillusioned. Then you have acceptance. And you know what's settling now, which is the worst of all, that can hit any fan base, is apathy.
Seen it.
Yeah, and hey, basketball season's about here. Hey, we got basketball, and that's the mindset. And Jeremy, it's only October October 9th. I haven't even raked the leave yet or bought my Halloween candy, and they're already checking out on football season. It's tough.
Yeah, been there, and it's really tough, and it really hampers a program, especially with what is happening in college athletics. Getting people to those football games is so important moving forward. So, I mean, 3 of the next 4 after this, Tom, are against top 4 opponents, right? Like this schedule is just insane. I mean, Illinois had a tough schedule at this point. They got Oregon and Michigan coming up, so this is the Big Ten now. So, my view of how Purdue looks at this game is, this is kind of make or break for if we want to do something this season. Illinois, Northwestern, like we have to find a way to compete and have a chance to win in these games. And they've owned this Cannon Trophy game, so I would imagine they're going to throw everything they can at Illinois to come out of this game, because this feels like a last gasp of getting anything tangible in this season.
One of them, 7 games left for Purdue. 5 are against ranked teams. These teams that are ranked right now, Illinois being one of them, obviously. Jeremy, one of the others is Indiana. IU's is just rubbing its hands, man. We're ready for Purdue to come down to Bloomington for the end of the year. And they got to still play the 3 best teams in the Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. God bless you. Good luck with that. And they have Northwestern home. So you got Illinois on the road, Michigan State on the road, Indiana on the road, and Northwestern at home. Maybe you got a shot at one of those 4, 2 of those 4. But Jeremy, they've given us no inclination they can play 4 quarters of competent football. Maybe the Northwestern game at home. 2-10, 1-11 season. That looks like it's probably what Purdue's staring at right now. And Jeremy, it's gotten to the point where we've all gotten out Ryan Walters' contract. Yeah. We all looked at the buyout terms. Long story short, not to bore you with a lot of details, it would cost over $10 million to clear him out and his staff out, roughly $10 million, maybe $11 million. Then you have the expense of bringing on new staff, another $12 million maybe. Add it all up, if Purdue wants to make a change, it could cost upwards of $25 million. And you referenced revenue sharing is coming next year. $22 million these schools are going to be on the hook to pay. So again, it's never a good time to have to for a big check, but boy, this would be a painful check and a painful mistake to admit to if you're Purdue. So like I said, some hard decisions have got to be made along Northwestern Avenue over here. Maybe they've already been made, Jeremy. We'll see. But again, it's going to be an interesting couple months here.
Well, as you said, that's significant cost. And 2 years in, I never thought we'd be having this conversation. Mm-hmm. But can you afford not to make a move if you go 1-11 or 2-10, something like that with what the Big Ten is? So how in doubt right now is Ryan Walters getting a 3rd season?
I think it's doubtful. I'll be honest with you. Part of me thinks he'd be very, very hard pressed to come back, especially after last week. That may have been the final straw, I think. They just looked totally incompetent last week, and like I said, got ran off the field. Jim, the 4 games they played versus FBS foes, they've only led once for about 5 minutes. That was against Nebraska. They had a 3-0 lead, and it's the fan base, as you can imagine, is up in arms. You can imagine what our message boards are like. They already got hot boards started.
Again,
those fans are always so level-headed, aren't they? But that's why they're fans, right? But yeah, so I don't know. I guess 50. I'm not even sure if I would put it at 50-50 right now. The big question is Purdue willing to make a commitment like that, to write that check, to go through this all over again? I don't know. That's not Purdue's MO, Jeremy. They're very, like most Big Ten schools, they're very cautious. They move slowly. They don't hastily fire people after a year or two, typically, ever. But man, I tell you what, this is a new world order in college football and college sports overall. And yeah, like you said, can they afford to bring him back? What would that do to season ticket sales next year? And do you really trust this guy to fix it next year? To hire another staff? I mean, I just don't know if you can trust him to fix this or not. And like I said, the ticket sales next year, the apathy. I mean, the Darrell Hazel era here was horrendous, and the crowds were just unbelievably thin. I mean, they've been pretty robust for Ryan to this point. I kind of hate to think what they would look like if he was back, but who knows?
The one thing Darrell Hazel had in his final year was a win at Illinois.
That's right. Thank God for Illinois. Thank God for Illinois.
So Brett Bielema, I know. I agree. I think they really want this cannon. They haven't had it in time there. I do want to ask you before I let you go, Tom, some brighter things. Purdue picked to win the Big Ten in basketball again. And as a guy who voted in that poll, I did pick Purdue. I find myself nowadays in this Big Ten going towards coaches. And despite the loss of Zach Edey, which is huge, I don't think it's easy for Purdue to win, but I love the backcourt. I love what Matt Painter develops there. So I just kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I picked Illinois second just because of their talent, but they have so much turnover there. So what is the thought in the post-Zach Edey era of what Purdue will be without maybe the best college basketball player of all time?
Yeah, definitely look different, right? Have that gigantic post presence there, which Purdue has become known for ever since Painter's been around. They've always had the big man. Even Gene Katie has a good big man. But, yeah, I think a little bit more athletic. Some nice talent on the wing. Folks are excited about Miles Colvin and Camden Heidi. And you mentioned the backcourt, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. I mean, those guys have been there and they've done that. They played a ton of basketball on big stages for 2 years. They're only juniors. It seemed like they've already been there forever. They got that Brian Cardinal syndrome. Like they've been there for 20 years. So, yeah, anytime you have guards like that.
Around here. That's a dirty name around here.
I know it is. Tolono, Illinois, Unity High School. Brian Cardinal. That's a deep cut, but I didn't mean to hurt Illini fans. So, yeah, I got a different team. And anytime you have a good backcourt, as Jeremy, you have a shot. So, like, especially with that point guard, Braden Smith. And yes, Purdue does have a promising young big man. Imagine that. A true freshman, Daniel Jacobson, 7'4" guy. He's rail thin, but he's a little bit more athletic, quite a bit more athletic than Edey, can maybe run the court. And he's got to get a little stronger, but I think they're going to play him. And Trey Kaufman-Rent's probably going to be their focal point in the paint, swinging between the 5 and the 4. So, yeah, a lot of people are excited. Like I said, a different team, maybe a little bit more a team that's not so post-centric. And like I said, fans are already waiting, Jeremy. They got an exhibition game in Creighton that they're already amped up about. And, heck, it'll all be here before we know it, right?
Yeah. Well, Tom Dienhart, goldenblack.com. Follow him on Twitter at Tom Dienhart1. Tom, you've always been good to me, so thank you again.
You too, Jeremy.
Man.
Always enjoy seeing you. Thank you for having me, buddy.